Hi ladies and gentlemen, this is Tony Holowitz, and in this Microsoft Excel tutorial we were going to talk about something called pivot tables. Now I want to state right up front, I am not a pivot table expert, and as a computer trainer the extent of my knowledge only goes so far. And with pivot tables, because it's something I don't use on a regular basis, it's not something that I feel I can give you a detailed explanation on other than just showing you how to do some of the preliminary work. Having said that, Excel, in my opinion, is one of those things that if you use it all the time, if you use it in your business and you really get into it and delve into it for whatever reason, you can take it to certain levels that are just unimaginable to me because of the nature of the way it works. Excel is amazing in that respect. Having stated that, let me tell you a little bit about what we're looking at right here. What I have done is I have broken down a spreadsheet in some information that is understandable to you. And to me, a lot of times when you work in Excel, especially if I'm trying to explain it to you, is you need to be able to understand the data so you can sort of see what things do and how they work and what they mean. If you don't understand the data, this will all be very confusing. So having stated that, we have broken this down in this way. We have the state, we have the 6 New England states listed here. We have the salesperson, which are presidents of the United States, Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, George Bush, Jimmy Carter, and a few more. So next we have the order amount, and this is a spreadsheet of their sales, invoices, their sales, and we're going to look at this and manipulate it a bit. We have the order date, the invoice number, and the day of the week that it occurred. So when you look at this data, you might want to break it down in one or more ways. And what a pivot table does is it allows you to do that. So let me show you how you work with a pivot table. And as I start doing this, I think you'll see certain things starting to happen. And again, you're not hurting any data or changing the data. You're just sort of changing the way you're viewing the data when you're working with a pivot table. So don't be afraid to break or hurt things. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up and click on Insert, and I'm going to go to Pivot Table right here. Now what happens by default in most cases is Microsoft Excel threw some dancing ants around all our data. And we have data that goes down off the screen that you can't see, but it's all contained in these columns and it goes down for quite a ways. So what it does is it automatically selected the data. Now, what I can do is by default, it's going to put this information in what's called a new worksheet. It's just going to add one down here. But don't really worry about this. When you start working with this, just trust what Excel is doing and don't try to get too complicated, especially as you're learning this information. So I'm going to click on OK. And now what happens is we have a new sheet, but we've got some interesting information here. It's sort of like what happened. So let me show you what's going to occur here. Basically in Excel, we have rows across the top where we can put labels, or we have columns going down the left-hand side. And the best way I can describe a pivot table is truly you just have to play with it. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to state, or I'm going to put the state as a column. So see up here where it says state, I'm going to click and hold, and I'm going to drag this down to where it says columns and release. Now what it's done is it put all the states that are in the spreadsheet right up here. Okay, so there are all the states. But now let's say we want the salesperson to be in a row. Well, I clicked on that, and because it wasn't a column, it had to be a row. But now we want values. And this is where it can get a little confusing, not too bad, but a little bit confusing. I'm going to come here and I'm going to take the order amount and I'm going to drag it down here to values. And now look what's occurred. We've taken the values of all of this information and we've put it in the body of this spreadsheet. So let me do this. Let me just come in here and I'm going to take all this information and I'm just going to center it. And I'm going to come back here on the Home tab and I'm going to center all this information just so it's a little clearer. So what we've done is we've created a pivot table. Now, in a previous tutorial, I talked to you about filtering and auto filtering. What this does is it allows us to filter some information. So for example, let's say I only want to see the sales from certain presidents. Well, if I check off select all and then just do Barack Obama, George Washington, and Jimmy Carter, all I'm going to see is the sales for those individuals. If I click here and choose select all, it's going to put it back on. Okay. And I'm going to click OK. So it brings all the data back. Again, let's say we don't want to see all the states. Maybe we just want to see some of the states. I'm going to uncheck the ones we don't want to see, click OK, and now we're filtering it down. But this is where the pivot comes in. I'm going to uncheck all this information right here, and this is what makes pivot tables interesting, and it can show you many different combinations of working with info. So for example, let's say that I want to take the state, and before where it was across the top as a column, now I'm going to put it as a row. So now the states are over here, and I've got a filter on, so I'm going to select all and put them all on. Here are all my states. But now let's take the salesperson and let's bring it into the columns. Okay. Now all the salespeople are across the top. Order amount, I'm going to again put in as values and put it right in there. So what this allows me to do is it allows me to pivot the information around. And again, you sort of have to understand the headings to understand what you can do with this. Let's take the order amount out, and just for the sake of it, let's put order date in values and see what happens. And what it's done is it's changed the type of order date, and it's and again, I should have looked at this beforehand. Let me take that out of there because I don't like the way that result came in. Um, let's take the order date out of there and just leave it as that. And let's put maybe the day in and just see what happens. And again, that's not really clear based on the way I brought this in. But the point I'm trying to make is that's how easy it is to take information in and out of a pivot table. Now, what I want you to see is this created a new sheet, but our original sheet is right here. So that's all the data. It took all that data and it created a pivot table out of that that you can manipulate. So imagine if you have tons of data. Now, sometimes the great thing about this is we're not changing any of this data. We can just move it around. So you can see the combinations here are really wide open. So again, go in with data you understand and can comprehend and understand when you move at certain places and work with pivot tables and play around with them. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tony Holowitz, and I want to thank you so very much for being here. Have a great day. Bye now.